Mind Twist is a pretty brutal card. Mind Twist is a sorcery that costs X and a black mana. Target player discards X cards at random. That's pretty good. Keep in mind that Dark Ritual, Mana Vault, and Soul Ring also are in the same set. Turn 1 Mind Twist was very possible from the beginning of the game. In fact, in some of the old school circles, there's a variation called Gentleman's Rules, which adds Library of Alexandria and Mind Twist to the ban list. That's pretty funny. Mind Twist is an interesting card, but there are probably very few people that would call this a fun card. Now, it would be unfair to Mind Twist to pretend that this card is constantly brutal and that it's likely to win you the game on the spot. It definitely can be good, but even if you manage a turn 1 Mind Twist for 7, you had to use at least 4 cards to do that. And if you used a couple mana vaults, you're pressuring yourself hard until you can get them untapped. And if you had instead used a couple of Dark Rituals, well, then you don't have those Dark Rituals anymore. Obviously, that's still really fucking good, but my point here is that it's not like a guarantee just you're fucked out of the game. It is really likely, obviously, but there are more powerful things to be doing in Alpha. Let's just say that. I've personally seen early Mind Twists still lose games. But I'm not trying to defend the card and say that it is a fair or balanced or fun card. I do think this is a type of card that makes more negative experiences than it makes positive ones. And I'm not personally against people saying that this should be banned in whatever format you want to do. I guess I personally don't need Mind Twist to be banned in a format, but I also don't really have any objections to it. And even in the situations where it is really good, it's not like it creates fun and diverse games, right? If the Mind Twist works, it's effectively you play out a couple of things with the couple of cards you have left, and then it's a draw go for 4 turns, right? So it's not interesting for most people, and I can understand that. I am, however, fortunate enough that I often get to experience having a Mind Twist cast on you, and it's something else. What a funny card. Discard effects as a whole are generally pretty strong, assuming they are mana efficient. Mind Twist is the grandfather to all of these effects, and many of these reinventings of Mind Twist have shaken up the game in their own right. Hymn to Torak is an obvious example of a card that was way too good and brutal. It saw quite a bit of play when the summer was especially black. Since then, though, they have kind of gotten rid of the random discard and moved to stuff like Duress, which is another one that I think still sees occasional play. Cabal Therapy is another example of them doing this. And then Thoughtseize is another example of this kind of effect turning the game on its head. And then a few years later, Inquisition of Kolziak would, basically do the same thing to a smaller degree. And these cards all had at least some level of viability in some of the various metas and variants of the game that they're allowed to be played in. And cards like this are incredibly interesting. These later versions that give off hand knowledge are especially interesting because they drastically affect the game at the highest levels and make decision trains longer. If your hand is shown to your opponent, sometimes you have to consider that they might know what you want to do, right? Because you're playing with good cards and they know what those good cards do. So you have to inevitably ask yourself, do I still do it, or do I adjust and do something that they might not expect that is slightly less optimal but might still work? And because of, how variable a game of Magic is, there's not a clear, correct answer to this. The mind games at high level are something to behold, and cards like Duress and Thoughtseize, I guess I don't want to say enhance this kind of divergent gameplay, because some people really do not like what this does to the game. And yeah, and I can see why people would feel that way. But it is interesting. And to be fair, these kind of effects also kind of create as many dead games as they create interesting back and forth, maybe even more. Like a turn 1 Thoughtseize can shut a game down permanently, and it's hard to say that that's good game design. But I do think that reasonable minds can agree that cards like this are, at the very least, interesting, and have the potential to make the game decisions more impactful. But I also think it's reasonable to agree that the opposite effect can and will happen with these kind of cards. But Mind Twist and Hymn to Torak, but we're talking mostly about Mind Twist here, are fundamentally different than these other cards because they don't require you to make a choice and there isn't any game decisions required of you. It's simple card advantage. You can't use this card correctly by picking the card that, you know, they need to win the game, and you also can't fuck it up by picking the card that they wanted you to pick. You just make X as big as you can afford, and then you remove that many random options from their hand. Is that good or bad? I mean, well, it's good because they have less options. Was it the most impactful option? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you hit all their lands and now they're fucked. Or maybe you hit the 2 cards in their hand that they didn't care about and now you're fucked. Maybe you used 2 Dark Rituals and a Lotus and ripped their whole hand, and now it's 4 turns of draw pass until anything happens because you didn't have a follow-up play. Random discard is such a sluggish mechanic. It's, like, fine online, but in paper, every time something is randomized, you have to set up a method to randomize it. Now, usually that's just rolling a die, but that can be annoying too. Some fun facts you may not know. The number of cards in your hand can change throughout a game and is what you would consider a moving variable. And fact 2, the number of sides a dice has usually doesn't change. In my personal experience, I've never seen a die shift the number of sides it has, making it a non-moving variable. Okay, that's a dumb joke, but you see what I'm saying here, right? Like it can be annoying to just randomly select something. It's just a minor inconvenience, but it is a minor inconvenience. And I'm definitely making a big deal out of nothing here, but I am trying to highlight that random anything in a paper game adds to the logistical load and distracts from the gameplay. Now, I'm not saying that the math to figure out how to randomly generate a number between 1 and 5 when all you have is 6-sided dice is hard, just that this can be a pain point for people, especially if it comes up like reasonably regularly. All of that to say that Mind Twist can be annoying to play with and against, and it rarely makes a game more dynamic and exciting. I do think it's a pretty interesting card, though. It's also interesting when compared to other strong cards in Alpha. I think it's reasonable to ban this card because of the negative play patterns and its tendency to create non-games, but I don't really think the card is that strong. Like, in Magical Christmas Land, you can lock your opponent out of the game on turn 1 and get handed a free win, but how often does that actually happen? Often enough for this card not to be fun or, like, good, like, for the health of the game, rather. But I don't think it's consistent enough for it to be, like, a dominating meta strategy. It's just annoying as fuck to play with or against. As an example, I think Hymn to Torak is a far stronger card, because for 2 mana you get 2 cards, and it costs you 1 card, and it's just hyper efficient. Mind Twist gets more efficient, like, the more cards you're ripping out of their hand, but if you're getting 2 of their cards for 1 of yours, right, like, it's a game of inches, right, especially at the high level. So, yeah. So I don't think Mind Twist is, like, super busted. It's just bullshit, right? Like, it's just stupid. It's kind of stupid in the same way Library of Alexandria is stupid, where it's like, okay, if one player gets it and you're both, like, playing control, then the other guy's just fucked. And even if he is playing aggro, he's still, like, kind of... It's just... If you're... Library is one of those cards, I personally think that if you're gonna allow, you need to allow 4. Like... Either everybody is doing Library all the time, or nobody's doing Library. I don't think you can, like, reasonably balance in between. I mean, I guess it's fine if you allow 4 strip mines, but that's how I feel about Library. Hot takes there. Mind Twist, that's what we're supposed to be talking about. Sorry about that. Um, I don't know. I think it's reasonable to think this card is bullshit. I also don't think it's like the strongest thing. It is powerful, like it is really efficient for what it does, but it isn't the most efficient, right? I guess one thing I've noticed when I've called a card overrated or bad is that nuance tends to leave the window with some of my comment section. Um, so I guess I'm excited to see what people have to say when I say Mind Twist kind of sucks. Yeah, Mind Twist sucks. It's the worst card in the world. Yeah, that's a true serious statement. But yeah, joking aside, I think it's an interesting card. I think it's fine. I think it's not fun to play with, and it's reasonable to not like it. Um, I don't think it really enhances any metas when it's involved, but it can be funny sometimes. But I would like to know what you guys think about Mind Twist. Is it busted? Is it annoying? Am I stupid? Do I not know anything about Magic because I didn't see you win a game with the Mind Twist you got in your starter deck at Origins in 93? Let me know in the comments. I always enjoy reading the different perspectives. But let's talk about the art for Mind Twist, because we have 4 to talk about today, and they're all pretty sweet. The original art for Mind Twist was illustrated by Julie Barrow, and this art is pretty fantastic. The pained expression and dark tones of this art really help to sell the experience it's trying to sell. This is unsettling shit, and it's all the more rich for it. I will say that his hat, or whatever that's supposed to be, does kind of look like a slice of pizza, and that's haunted me for years. Sorry to ruin that for you. I like this art. I think the use of purple with red and black is really cool in this piece. I like it a lot. I think everything about this piece is pretty sweet. This art would be used up until 4th edition, and then this card wouldn't see printing for a long time. The next art to talk about isn't even something you can get in paper. This art, by Seb McKinnon, has been used for 2 Magic Online promos, but it's never seen a paper printing. I really like this art. I think it does a fantastic job of being slightly unsettling and kind of unclear, which I think is flavorful for a spell that rips out your thoughts. Yeah, I like this one. I do think it's kind of a shame that we never got a physical printing of this art, but it is what it is. The Amonkhet Invocations are pretty interesting cards that I haven't really discussed too much. Some people really like the Invocations, and some people find them impossible to decipher, which is pretty funny, and also incredibly reasonable. I mean, look at this shit. This particular invocation was illustrated by Igor Kiriluk, and the art on this is fantastic. Reasonable people can disagree on the frame, but I think we can all agree that this art, at least, is pretty fucking cool. I really like this art. I think it does a fantastic job of highlighting Mind Twist. I also think this art would look sick as hell in Old Border. It's very cool. I like this art a lot. I think it's great. But yeah, other than this invocation, Mind Twist wouldn't see another printing. Big surprise there. Until Mystery Boosters 2, which dropped a future frame version of Mind Twist, which is pretty awesome. Mystery Boosters 2 does a lot of really wacky shit that I think is pretty funny. And future frame Mind Twist is a good... It's a good joke. This was illustrated by John D. Giovanni, and it's pretty solid. I do think that this is my least favorite art for Mind Twist, but they're all really good. So, like, it's not a bad illustration at all. Mind Twist just has, like, really good art for every version, which is pretty fucking cool. Usually you see 1 or 2 that you don't. Well, I mean, this is all my opinion, right? You might not like some of these, but usually I see 1 or 2 that I'm just like, eh. I mean, I'll probably be nice to it, kinda, but I'm not, it's not my thing. But all of these are good. I wouldn't complain about any of them. I guess I don't really have anything else to say about this art, because I don't particularly like criticizing art direction much, because it's, you know, so opinion-based, and I have no idea, like, what direction they were even given. But I will say I am struggling with the green used to illustrate the Mind Lashes. I think I'd like this art better if they were purple, maybe? Maybe like a dark red? I don't know. Purple's kind of sticking in my head, and I'm not sure why. I can't really articulate why I think that. But the green in it is kind of taking me out of it. Still, the art is super well done. But yeah, that's really all I have for you about Mind Twist. It's a funny and interesting card that is just awful when it's played against you. I can see why Wizards has gone away from stuff like this, and I kind of agree with them on this one. As always, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments, but if you don't want to, that's okay. You could also like the video if you liked it. You can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thanks for watching.